What's going on, everybody? It's your boy C-Zar, and we are talking about Bitcoin Cash today, BCH USD. Shout out to the Dragon Riders in the House of the Dragon. Hit that like button and subscribe. Thank you all for being here. It is the 12th day of June, and here we are at about $204. We'll get to 600 soon enough. $204 with roughly 11 hours and 18 minutes left in the day. Yesterday we did have technically a bullish engulfing candle. Yeah, moved up 5.6%. Here we are today having a little bit of a red candle. It is possible that we still go lower. It's completely possible that this is not the low, but a bullish engulfing candle is a nice way to start off a relative low, that's for damn sure. If we do go lower, we have the indicator set up in a way that would allow for bullish divergence to form on the MACD, on the stochastics, on the RSI. So I wouldn't be too worried about that. There is bullish divergence on the RSI right now. We have higher lows here with lower lows there. That divergence started from this low point here, so that would at least be good for a move that would be somewhere around here. We did get right up against this line here, but technically didn't cross the threshold. I would expect that we see something a little bit higher if we are to persist higher. Otherwise, we move down right now. We get that lower low. We build another higher low in the RSI, a higher low in the MACD, and a higher low in the stochastics, and then we see some recovery. Now, again, we have not been this oversold on the daily time frame in Bitcoin Cash's history. We've never seen it this low. Okay, it's never been like this. And some people might hear that and think, "Oh my God, that means it's time to buy." No, not necessarily. It can mean that. It can mean that, but it also means that this is one of the weakest moves that we've seen, or strongest moves into a bearish effect that we've seen in Bitcoin Cash's history. This could continue to persist lower over time. We could see something like that. I don't expect that we keep up this pace. I don't expect that we're going to do that or anything like that, but we could see prices go a little bit lower from here. I don't think we're going to go below $100 or anything like that. I would be surprised if we went below this range here. It's completely possible that that is the low itself, but even if it is the low, with how bearish of the reading this is, it's going to take some time before we're ready to actually see any kind of significant movement upwards, right? Whenever we saw very low readings in the RSI before here, we didn't move lower immediately, but in time we did move lower. And we consolidated first. We consolidated before actually making a move to either side, either up or down, and we made the move down. Just because we moved down this time doesn't mean we have to move down this time. We could move up, but it is something to consider. We could consolidate and still move lower. Stochastics have also been oversold for quite some time. We've actually not seen this week of a stochastic reading in a very long time. And the MACD itself is also building some very deep red on the histogram here and very, very low readings on the oscillators. I just wonder, we've seen lower readings on the oscillators before, but you've also got these lower lows here, kind of an area to find support. Maybe these lower highs here, we could come up and find resistance at the 0 level up there. So there's a lot of signals saying that this is bad. This is pretty terrible, pretty strong to the bearish effect, but we're likely in an area where we are going to find support, whether it's at this low or it's somewhere very, very near this low, whatever the case may be. We're certainly in an area where it would make sense to find relative support. Bitcoin Cash, when it moves up from a low to a high, it doesn't do this. It doesn't do this. It doesn't do this. It does this. It does this all the way up. And this is one of the benefits of Bitcoin Cash. And even here, whenever you moved at a faster pace, look at all the up, down, up, down, up, down. Look at all the little squiggly wiggles here as you're going through. You don't really see this kind of price action too often. This kind of stuff. It's more methodical. It's more choppy and very tradable. This is one of the benefits of Bitcoin Cash, is what I was saying. Not financial advice, not a financial advisor, but if you are a trader and you take it upon yourself to take small gains, you can actually do pretty well for yourself here. I mean, imagine here yesterday you moved up 5.6%. Imagine if you bought somewhere around the low and you took 3% profits, and then it comes back down and you buy again and you take 3% profits, and it comes back down and you take 3% profits, and it goes up higher, but then it comes back down and you buy again, and you keep doing that all the way up. You're going to make some solid gains. It might go up from a low to a high. It might go up 30%, but in the meantime, you've made 60% or more just because you're taking those little choppy dips every time and you're not getting greedy. It's great. It's phenomenal to buy something at $200 and sell it at $1,000. It's a great feeling, that 5x. But man, it's a whole different game when you're taking little snippets all the way through. And I don't think we're going to go all the way here. Maybe from here, but anyways, enough about the initial thoughts here. Let's kind of get a deeper dive into this. I do want to pull up the BCH BTC chart again. BCH BTC here on Binance. Look at this on the monthly. Again, I mean, if we were looking at this, guys, let's compare this. Let's compare this to Bitcoin's chart on the weekly time frame here. Can you see it? Do you see it? Now, I inverted this so it looks similar, but do you see how you moved up in a nice channel, and then you started to, then you started to roll over. Do you see that? And then what'd you do? You went down, right? Here, you're moving up in a nice channel, but now you're starting to roll over. So what's going to happen? You're probably going to move down, except the chart's inverted, so really you're going to move up. This is a rounded bottom pattern. Rounded bottom, saucer pattern, frying pan pattern, it's all the same thing. If you look up, what does this mean? What is the significance of this pattern? Whatever, however you want to phrase it in Google or Grok or whatever AI you're using, it'll say typically, and I'm not speaking verbatim here, I'm just speaking from how I think of it, but I've read these notes before in my time as an analyst. Typically what it means is a shift in momentum, right? And we're seeing that shift in momentum, and long-term accumulation is happening. Whenever you have a shift in momentum and long-term accumulation happens, typically you see a retracement of this move down. You see a retracement. We look at the high to low, and I'm not going to measure to the all-time low. I could. That would give us better targets, or actually I think it would give us worse targets. Let's measure to the all-time low, just because I'd rather be conservative. I don't like to do that, though. I like to take this low because this is the measurement of this move, right? This is not part of this move anymore. This is like the sideways choppiness, and these are fake out lows. They're probably not going to be too much lower. I mean, if we go too much lower here, then okay, then I'll measure from that low there. But I like to take it this way, but let's bring it down to the lowest low. That way these levels are actually lower, so we can be even more conservative. Whether it's there at the 236 or it's here at the 236, you see how much cleaner that lines up? That's not always the way to do it with fibs, but typically you know which low is the appropriate one if you're in a situation like this by which one's being respected more. This is definitely being respected more. Look at the 069 support there. You disrespect it a little bit here, but whatever. The point being, we're going to take this low because this line here is lower than if it's over here. I'd rather be conservative than greedy. You look at this here, the 382 is your minimum target typically whenever you talk about any kind of standard retracement. Past that, you have the 0.5, which typically you don't stop at. It doesn't really make too much sense to stop here. I mean, it's kind of in the heart of this zone. You'd more likely stop just below or just above. And just above it there would be the golden ratio. So I'm going to say the 382 to the golden ratio zone. That's likely where our retracement is going to be. And we think about this prospectively. We think about this in the future, okay? If Bitcoin Cash is moving up like this versus Bitcoin, is Bitcoin itself moving down or is it moving up, right? When BCH here was moving up, Bitcoin's price was moving down at some points, but for most of it, Bitcoin was actually moving up until October 2025. It was moving up. A lot of these moments where Bitcoin Cash spikes versus Bitcoin's moving up too. It's not when Bitcoin's in, and I say a lot of times, every time we've seen these spikes, it hasn't been when Bitcoin's deep in a bear market and we're moving down in that moment. No, it's when Bitcoin's moving up that those moments happen. So my question is, if Bitcoin Cash is moving up versus Bitcoin, is Bitcoin going to move down or up? It's going to move up. It's going to be at a higher valuation. Now, I don't think in 2027 we're going to be up here. Not in July. Maybe we're up here, maybe. But in time, we will be worth multiple hundreds of thousands of dollars, if not even $1 million or more. And these rounded bottom patterns take a lot of time to form. They take a lot of time to preform, to perform, to make their move. Okay, we could be in this rounded accumulative phase. I mean, guys, it could be 2028, 2029. It could be until the next bull cycle before we actually see the recovery happen. And not the next bull cycle, the cycle after the next bull cycle. It could be sometime during the next bear market that we start to see the recovery happen. And Bitcoin Cash just has a more mild bear market than Bitcoin does. Time will tell. But the point being, when we see a solid retracement, Bitcoin itself will be at a higher price than it is now. 63.4K, if we take 2% of 63.4K, we're sitting at like $1,300 basically. Something like that, 2%. The 382 typically you don't go up and then reject it right there. You typically wick a little bit above that. So that would put Bitcoin Cash at like a $1,300 to $1,500 price in the US dollars if Bitcoin was at its same level now. But I would think if Bitcoin Cash is moving up to $1,300, that Bitcoin itself would probably be at least back above 90K, if not potentially pressing new all-time highs. So then the real question is not what's this percentage from this current price of Bitcoin. It's what's this percentage from the perceived outcome that Bitcoin might have. And I would think at least 90K. So then you take that, and that would bump it up to about 1,800, maybe 2,400, maybe even more than that if we were to get to 2% of a Bitcoin, or a little bit above 2% of a Bitcoin, 2.5%, whatever the case may be, because it's very common to wick just above the 382. Next step, let's keep tickling our fancies here. The next step would be the golden ratio. Now, if we're moving up to the golden ratio where we found resistance before, and there's a lot of noise on the chart here, but let me get rid of it. Where we found resistance before right here, we found support right here. It's a somewhat significant area, being from the all-time high to the all-time low in the fibs. It's a pretty significant measurement. We go to the golden ratio, that's 6.4% to 9.2%. Imagine Bitcoin Cash, which Bitcoin Cash is Bitcoin, right? I know we pass over that at times, but Bitcoin Cash is Bitcoin. They share the same Genesis block. It was a hard fork. A lot of people, and this is for the people who are new, I've talked about this a lot, right? A lot of people think of it like this, right? You've got a timeline where Bitcoin's here, and then Bitcoin Cash forks off of it, and it's starting its own timeline down here. That's not what happened. Bitcoin and Bitcoin Cash, they were the same. They were the exact same. They have the same Genesis block. The hard fork, the way that it happened, they both went off in their own timelines. They both went off the same way. And I compare this to Ethereum Classic and Ethereum, because Ethereum, as we know now, Ethereum 2.0, right, is actually closer related, I would say, to Bitcoin Cash in the sense of this hard fork than Ethereum Classic would be related to Bitcoin Cash. You assume, when Ethereum forked off, people would compare ETC to BCH, because ETH kept the market cap dominance, kept the name. BTC kept the market cap dominance, kept the name. BCH and ETC did not. But the reality is ETC is the old protocol. ETH is the advanced protocol. BTC is the old protocol. BCH is the advanced protocol. But the only difference here is that the popularity contest was given to the old protocol instead of the advanced protocol. Bitcoin Cash, all I'm trying to say is it's more adherent to the Bitcoin white paper, to the Satoshi white paper, and it serves as electronic digital peer-to-peer cash much more effectively than Bitcoin does. Bitcoin serves as a store of value. That's great, that's fine. But because it relinquished its desire to be peer-to-peer electronic cash, and it's more aiming to be a store of value, that leaves an empty seat on the throne of digital cash and what we are going to use as digital cash in this world. And a lot of people might think, well, if we're just looking for digital cash, why not stablecoins? Stablecoins work. We use cash, and then digital cash would literally be stablecoins. Why not just use that? The reason why is because Bitcoin Cash could be just as effective as stablecoins, as peer-to-peer cash, but it's not run by any government. It's not controlled by any one person. It's much more decentralized. Bitcoin Cash, you guys, in time, as people start to realize this, and the power of all of these things. I'm going on a whole different rant. We're getting away from TA, but I'm just explaining this. I like to do this every now and then because sometimes we do have a new class ushered in of Bitcoin Cash enthusiasts or curious people who are curious, inquisitors, whatever. And and they don't know this stuff. And I don't know everything about Bitcoin Cash. I'm not the most well-informed person, but I know enough to talk about it, you know. And whenever it comes to digital peer-to-peer decentralized electronic cash that is meant to be used as cash, you can use it as a store of value too, whatever. Um, but whenever it comes to that, there's nothing better than Bitcoin Cash. There's no better community, and it is truly the most decentralized coin, other than like, I don't know. I mean, maybe Cardano is just as decentralized, or maybe more decentralized. There's not too many. Dogecoin might be decentralized to a certain degree as well. But you think about Dogecoin, there's no figurehead, right? You think about Cardano, there's Charles Hoskins, whatever his last name is. You think about Bitcoin Cash, there's no figurehead. You think about Bitcoin, there's no figurehead, but there's Michael Saylor, um, Satoshi Nakamoto, I guess, right? Satoshi would be our figurehead for Bitcoin Cash too. I'm getting distracted, guys. I wanna move on with the point. The point here that I'm trying to make is that if we're up here, a lot of this stuff is going to be realized and accepted by the masses. People are going to start to get on board with this. They're going to hear all those words that I just said and be like, and second guess themselves and what they thought of BTC and what they thought of BCH. And at this point, Bitcoin itself will likely be at new all-time highs. It'll likely be worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. Let's just take that. I would assume it's going to be higher than this, but let's say Bitcoin's worth $200,000 and Bitcoin Cash is worth 6.4% of that. That would be roughly a $13,000 Bitcoin Cash. And here it is right now at $204. This area here, I know I was talking about, trading. Trading's fun. It's really fun. If you have discipline, it can be fun, but you're going to have to take little nibbles with this thing because, again, we're probably not going to get huge swings. It's not going to be like huge tradable moments all the way through. But beyond trading, too, if you want to take the easier path, and I don't know, is it easier? Is it harder? It's hard to hold for a long time. How many people held Bitcoin when it was worth $204 and held it all the way through? It's easier said than done. But if you take this as an opportunity, and it is a tremendous opportunity now to hold for the long term, I would imagine, now being 2026, the middle of 2026, that within the next 3 to 4 years, probably not 4 years, probably a little over 3 years, or maybe right around 3 years, I would imagine that Bitcoin Cash will be worth more than $10,000, potentially more than $20,000, anything and everything in this range. I would assume that we see new all-time highs overall. We take this high to a low, and our target range, could be anywhere from 13 really to 53K. I just have a hard time imagining that we go from, a bear market low of $204 all the way up to 53K. Bitcoin itself didn't do that. Doesn't mean that Bitcoin Cash can't. But when the time comes, when Bitcoin Cash is seeing new highs, whenever it is seeing new highs, people are going to start to look at it differently. They're going to have to reassess themselves on what they thought of Bitcoin Cash. And that's the main point I'm trying to drive home here, is that we are doing something different. Go ahead and look at any crypto chart that's existed for as many cycles as Bitcoin Cash has, even half the cycles, right? You've got one bull market, one bear market, one bull market, one bear market, one bull market, one bear market. That's 3 cycles. Get one that's existed for 2 cycles or more, any crypto. You'll see that their BCH or that their Bitcoin chart, almost all of them, are like this. Okay, any of them that are like this, they don't stop. They keep going. There might be moments where it's exciting, sure, but they keep going down. They don't do this. They don't move sideways. This is rare. This is unique, even. And it's certainly worth paying attention to when it comes to a coin that has been in the top 30, the top 20 predominantly most of its life. Even now, you're at the top 22. But if we take away stable coins, there's like 4 of them on the way up here. You take away stable coins, really you are in the top 20. And I think we should not consider stable coins. For most of your life, you've been considered a dead project and you're still in the top 20. You've maintained a lot of your value. You've been stable for most of your life. I shouldn't say stable. You've been pretty volatile. All I mean is you're at the same price now that you were at your inception, at your hard fork inception. whenever this thing sees new all-time highs or even new highs relative to this, people are going to be forced to look at it differently, and that'll open up the door. What if these Bitcoin Cash crazy people are right? What if there's something to this? What if this really is a second chance at Bitcoin? They're at least going to entertain the thought. And when that door opens, whenever that door of curiosity opens, it's going to slam open, man. Because it doesn't take much. The people that don't like Bitcoin Cash don't know anything about it. The people who know at least a little bit of what's going on, there's a reason why they believe. And maybe they believe in Bitcoin more. Maybe they believe in Ethereum more. But they at least believe that there's a chance that this thing can go and do these crazy, crazy things in time. And maybe even some of you, and I think a lot of you, like me, believe that Bitcoin Cash can flip Bitcoin. It doesn't mean that it will, but I think it can. I think out of any crypto that exists, it's the only one that actually has a chance to flip Bitcoin. Nothing else does. It's the real deal, man. $204. I think it's going to move up. I want to get back to the TA. I went on a whole philosophical rant there, but BCH, BTC, this chart really is powerful. It looks very promising. And we're at these low areas in the RSI that we've typically, that once we got here, this is actually when we really started to round out our price action. BCH USD here, looking at the daily time frame. We've already actually kind of gone over the daily time frame. Let's go over the 4-hour time frame. $204 now. I wouldn't be surprised if we moved up a little bit higher, probably around 210, 213. Come back down. We'll see some volatility as we work our way up, but I do assume overall right now we're in this environment where we will be consolidating. I would expect that we don't break down from this consolidation range, but that we break out to the upside. We're going to see something like this. We're going to see something like this, right? I'm assuming that, you know, something like this. Maybe it's more volatile like this. I think this was just so crazy. This is so crazy. So we saw this, but then we had a little bit of sideways neutrality there. We're going to see something where for at least a month or two or longer, we're going to be moving sideways. And let's compare this real quick one last time before we end the video here. New price scale. Okay, and then I'm going to put this on the candles so we can see it for sure. Come on. So I hope it's obvious as to which one's which. Okay, Bitcoin is on the bottom, Bitcoin Cash is on the top. Bitcoin Cash had its bear market low right here. Bitcoin had its bear market low 2 weeks later. Okay. Bitcoin Cash had its bull market high here. Bitcoin had its bull market high months later. Okay. The bear market low for Bitcoin Cash and BTC was at the exact same level here. It was at the exact same level here, but Bitcoin Cash grew a lot more in a shorter amount of time than Bitcoin did. And then we look at the all-time high. Bitcoin Cash's high actually came in after Bitcoin this time. Not at the same time as Bitcoin, but a little bit, like a week after, 2 weeks after. All I'm trying to say here is that Bitcoin Cash and Bitcoin historically, and we look at these tops as well. Oh wow, I've actually flipped the script around, didn't I? This is Bitcoin. This is Bitcoin Cash. Moving it over here. The top for the last cycle for Bitcoin Cash came in well before Bitcoin's again. So they don't always correspond directly. What I'm trying to get to here is that I believe Bitcoin, even though I don't believe Bitcoin's bear market low is in, I believe this could be a sufficient area for Bitcoin Cash's bear market low to be in. I don't believe that it needs to go too much lower, if at all lower. You know, we can consolidate and maybe we see a slightly lower price in that meantime. But whatever the case may be, I suspect Bitcoin Cash will bottom out before Bitcoin itself does. And just with that in mind, here, $204 is an excellent time to accumulate more for the long term especially. It's an excellent time to trade. We're probably going to be moving sideways and being choppy. There's no real sense of urgency. My only thing that I would be urgent about that I would really recommend not doing is that if you're not buying here, Don't buy if it pumps to $300, $400. Wait, be patient. It'll probably come back down. We're probably going to see some downward volatility, some consolidation. Even if it does get a little bit extreme on the volatile side, we'll see some other chance down at these levels, okay? So if you're not buying here, make the commitment not to buy here, and don't you dare buy at higher prices. Not that this would be bad. I mean, if even buying at $600 is a steal if you think about the long-term history of this thing. The long-term, I shouldn't say history, but the prospects of this thing. Anyways, man, I'm just rambling. I'm getting tied up on my words. I'm going to end the video there. Hit the like button, subscribe. Thank you all for being here. I do believe that we're going to see some tremendous recovery over time. We take that bear market low from the last cycle to the bull market high of this cycle, and you can see that we're right at the golden ratio. I don't assume that we go below $167. I do assume that we'll be range bound for quite some time and slowly but surely shifting our way up, and we should see a very glorious bull market in the years of 2027 to 2029 for Bitcoin Cash. Hit that like button. Thank you all. Take care. I'll see you on the next one. Bye-bye.